Those 4 dots right there are about to become 3/8-inch holes. I'm gonna bolt this to the ground. These plates I made out of steel, those are gonna be underneath it to give it a little more height. Then what I'll be able to do is attach this 12,000-pound winch and the mounting plate to that hitch receiver, where I'll be able to connect that to it, and I'll be able to have a winch that I can use on the garage floor and store when not in use. We're getting close to the point of no return. Got the hammer drill from my buddy. I got a 3/8 bit in here. I got my holes marked. Everything's centered. Only thing left is to drill, baby. 3 more to go. One of the things I made sure to do was keep the dust from being spread around a lot. From when they installed the lift, that was one of the main things that I noticed that was a big deal, and that was the dust got everywhere. So I was really doing my best to make sure to minimize the spread of the dust. So I was using my little hand broom over here, and I'd every so often sweep away from the holes that I drilled out. Now they're at the full depth. I'm gonna go ahead and vacuum up all this mess and all this. Actually, I'll probably sweep that up and then I'll vacuum up the remnants so I don't have it all inside the vacuum, because this stuff is, I don't know if you've ever dealt with cement dust, it's nasty. All right, so I have my base plates set up underneath. It's all lined up, and I got that where everything's lined up. Make sure the holes are centered. I have my bolts ready. They're 3/8 by 3 inches. Went ahead and tossed a flat washer on there just to give it a little bit more surface to work with. Got my impact that I'm going to put those in with. I'm ready to rock. That's the hammer drill I use, by the way, that I borrowed from my friend. I just got it started. I'll kind of give you an idea of what's going on. So I got the plates in like we talked about earlier. I went ahead and started the bolts just to kind of get everything guided up. So I put in the one over here first, second, third, fourth, just getting them started. Then I broke out a little hammer, tap everything into place, make sure it was all where I wanted before I tighten it down all the way. So I went ahead and tightened everything down with my impact, but right before I got to the very end, I went ahead and broke out like a breaker bar so I can tighten everything by hand, because I wanted to make sure everything was as tight as it needed to be. And I'll probably check this periodically just to make sure everything stays tight. Everything is on there nice and tight. I got the moment of truth. Now I pre-measured this like 100 different times, and I wanted to make sure everything was right, because once I put it in the ground, it's pretty much permanent. Now these bolts could come out, but they say once the bolt comes out, you can't really reuse the hole. You're not even supposed to reuse the bolt. Screw. Anyways, so got my pin out. I'm just gonna slide it in, and then let's back it up just a little bit. Got the pin in there. It's all locked in place. That is ready to do some work. Gonna do a little test pull and before we start doing a vehicle. So I got the winch all mounted like you saw earlier. Got my handy controller ready to rock and roll. Not too complicated. What is it? In and out. Ready? Yeah. Not super fast. I should have been guiding it. Come over here, I'll show you. See how it's all on this one side? Uh-huh. It's supposed to go all the way across, and you're supposed to kind of guide it in there a little bit if it doesn't do it automatically. Let's put it in free spool, pull it back out real quick. So something we figured out, got to kind of guide it in there a little bit, or it'll all build up on one side, which is no bueno. Because you got this here roller, which is supposed to help you, but it can go and pop this off if you're not careful. I went ahead and broke out these work gloves I have to help guide the cable in to make sure it rolled and even back and forth. It would be nice if it did it on its own. If anybody has suggestions in there, definitely will take them. But I wanted to make sure I had this just in case there was a little cable burr or something like that and I didn't like rip up my hand. A little bit of progress. I moved the hard top back onto the CJ7 so that we can get it out of the way. I don't have it bolted on. I just have it resting on there right now. I got some other projects I want to do with this, so I may pull this back off in a bit. But I need to get these boards back into the backyard or put them on the back side of the rack over here. And I can start messing with this. I need to put the air in the tires. I think they're a tad low. Sneaky feeling these tires are a little low. It's been sitting on the lift for a while, so chances are they're like less than half PSI. Oh, look at that. What is it, 13? Yeah, it's just a little low. Oopsies. This little Ryobi I received free. BendPak sent it to me as a consolation for the lift not getting installed properly. They thought this would help make things better. So I'm going to use it to air up the tires. You know, it's loud, it's slow, but you know what? It does get the job done. I'm ready to give it a test. I got the winch all hooked up. I have a D-ring on one of the tow hooks over here, and I got the cable on there. I'm in free spool right now. I'll probably get it going a little bit, stop it, put the brake on, put this in manual, and then go from there. I went ahead and moved the Gladiator. I was a little nervous because it seems to be angling out, and I was worried just in case there's some sort of catastrophic failure. I don't want to take out one of my vehicles with another vehicle. So safety first, my friends. Seems to be holding. It's over there, but I made something. I put a flat surface pulley on some 2x4s that I made into like basically a lake station. And it should help just in case as I start to go down the driveway, I don't have to worry about it dragging on the crossbeam of the lift. It's probably far enough for now. So far, I'm going to call it a win. You know, getting it back in here under a load. It's going to be a little different, but it should go okay. So there's that pulley that I set up. And the nice thing, originally I was going to bolt it to this, but you know, I'm glad I didn't, because now I can slide this wherever I need to, depending on where my anchor point is on the vehicle. Watch the cable, you're going to trip like I did. But I'm going to call this a solid win. Car's out of the garage, and I'm going to put it back in the garage in a little bit. I'm going to let it sit out here for a minute. Let it breathe. This is where the clear coat is coming off. I may pull a Rich Rebuilds move and hit Mako up on that. Make it cheap. Works for him. It's going to work for me. It seems to be holding. No stress, no fractures. Nothing seems to be loose. Everything seems to be holding. So, not bad for amateur hour. I'm pretty happy. Seems to be doing what it's supposed to. I got to pay attention to this roller. Looks like it's doing that again, where it's all winding up on one side. I'm gonna roll it back out. I think part of the problem is it being on the passenger side for the D-ring. That's part of the problem with it wanting to pull over here. When I'm moving it with my hand, it doesn't want to pull. Maybe I can play around with where that pulley is. That's where a second pair of hands will come in handy. My shop towel. Ta-da! All right. Feels so victorious. Next time that I play around with this, pulling the car on, you know, I might run a small chain across, because this one has 2 anchor points. I may do that and then put the D-ring in between, just so I can get a nice even straight pulling, so that the cable threads back in or spools back in nice and even back and forth. Also, I'll probably need to get myself one of those blankets or towels or what have you that goes on the cable, just in case there's a cable failure and it's like, woo, not in my face. That was something of concern while I was doing it, making me a little nervous. Other than that, very happy. So that's technically the battery to the RX-7. I keep it on a tender, so that way I'm doing a charge back and also extending the life of the battery. I think this battery is pretty old, so I don't know if I'm going to put it back in the RX-7. I may just keep it as the winch battery and then get a new one for the RX-7 when it starts hitting the road. Brakes on. In first gear. Got my blocks in on both sides of the rear driver's side tire. Time to go up. That's the height I like to keep it at. I can walk underneath it without bonking my head. It's high enough. I left the ramps on. Usually I take them off, but with the vet, I can pull underneath that because it's short enough. It's 48 inches on the roof line, so it gives me enough room to pull underneath it without issue. I just got to make sure I shut off the radio before I pull in or out. But sometimes I tuck the ramps over here in the corner, but today I feel like leaving them on. Won't have to worry about hitting this because it's, you know, like maybe 3 inches, 4 inches off the ground. Ramps are on. But like I said, the Corvette sits just under those. Usually I keep them here in this corner over here. And I got the winch stored away over here and whatnot, so it's out of the way. Pretty solid success. Everything's back where it belongs. The vet's back in the place. RX-7's back up in its place. Went ahead and left the ramps on like I said earlier. But also the hard top's not there. It's on the CJ7, which then allows me to have that out of the way. And I'm not 100% sure if I'm going to pull that back off when I do the radio project, just so I can move around a little easier, or leave it on. We'll see. Very successful day. Everything worked like it was supposed to. I was a little nervous, but I also was pretty confident that it was going to work as it should. But you never know when you're dealing with stuff you haven't done before. Very happy with it. So this is going to allow me, one, to get the RX-7 back on the road like it needs to, but then also future projects, whether I have a dead vehicle or not, this is going to pay off for getting things in the garage and on the lift without too much difficulty. So why don't you go ahead and hit like, subscribe, leave a comment. Thanks again, guys.